if you can hear people talking but can't understand them. Watch this.
I'm your cochlea, and it's my job to let...
We will get started just in a little bit, okay? Hang in there. All right, I'm going to pause the music real quick. We're going to be covering just maintenance tips today on this machine that I just presented on the channel, which incidentally, I want to declare the winner of it. We had kind of a silent auction on this machine that belonged to Heather, and kind of grew up in the family sewing all those fun clothes I showed you in the last live stream by Donna. And we had a number of people that were interested in getting their mitts on this, but ultimately the highest bid that came in from the great state of Arizona, and from our real good friend. She's known in some circles as Super B and in other circles as Mindy. And this machine, like a number of other machines that I've offered for sale, either from my personal collection or for customers to help them out, is heading out to join Mindy and her family in the great state of Arizona. Also, Mindy just had a birthday, so I've got to believe that she probably threw her hat in the ring to get this as a belated birthday present. But as I went through the machine to get it ready for that last live stream, I intentionally held off on some of the maintenance so that I could demonstrate it for all of you. A lot of you either have or want to have a Swedish Beauty, as I refer to them, a Husqvarna Viking vintage machine, whether it's a Colormatic machine like this, or whether it's going to be a machine that's much earlier, like some of the 21As, 21Es, etc. So if you own a Swedish Beauty or you want to own a Swedish Beauty, then this is the live stream that you want to be a part of, because it's going to give you some great tips on servicing areas that I can guarantee you that these areas will not be serviced by a sew and vac. Now, after they watch this live stream, they might decide to try to take that on and add to their portfolio of service. But if they do, they're not going to be able to do it in 30 to 45 minutes like they usually do. They're going to have to spend about 1 to 2 hours on the machine to do it right. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm going to start to jump into this, and I'll play a little bit of music in the background as I'm doing this. And I hope you enjoy that as well. It's from a video that Susie and I shot of the bears in the backyard. And it's because I don't know why all of my other music on my phone disappeared. So I've got to re-record music again so I can play music in the background. But for right now, we're going to be playing with bears and playing with this very cool Model 6430. Okay? All right, here we go. I'll get us going, and I hope you learned something new. I knocked him over.
When your golf buddy thinks you're on Ozempic, but you're not.
Nice shot. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Joe, you've got more energy than all of us combined.
These commercials, even on our channel here, get to be a little bit annoying sometimes. Oh my gosh. Anyway, let's keep moving forward on this and see if we can get some maintenance done before another commercial comes on. I'll just leave the music off for right now because apparently I have commercials set up on our bear video and they're just going to keep on going. They're trying to sell us a lot of drugs and stuff. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is you can see that I raised the needle up. As simple of a step as that seems, I can't tell you how many times over the years I've been contacted by someone and they will say something like, let me move the microphone down. No, they don't say that. I say that. They'll say something like, I'm trying to remove my bobbin case and the bobbin case won't come out. And I'll say, do you have the needle down? And sure enough, 99% of the time, they've got the needle rotated down into the raceway. And if the bobbin case is in there, you're not going to be able to take it out. So you notice right away, I brought my needle up and I took the bobbin case out of Mindy's machine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out these three little torque bolts right here, and then we'll be able to take the hook assembly out. So I'm going to grab, there's a variety of different screwdrivers that you could use. I'm going to use a screwdriver that I use quite often, and you can use whatever one you choose to use. And you'll notice as well, I've got a little magnetic tray right over here, and that's where I'm going to put all of the metal pieces that we take off of the machine so we don't lose anything or we don't drop it. Last night I popped into Susie's sewing suite, and she was on her hands and knees. And I said, what are you doing, honey? She said, I dropped a screw. And she had been trying to adjust the bobbin case that goes with her Sashiko. It doesn't look like this, but it's similar. And she was trying to adjust the screw on her Sashiko bobbin case and didn't realize that with the Sashiko tension band, this little thing right here, that it was under a lot of pressure. So when she got to a certain point of loosening it, it just shot off. And who knows where the screw is? I joked with her that it might be in the front yard. But what I showed her is that a lot of these screws for the bobbin cases are universal. And so I came into the workshop and I grabbed a class 15 bobbin case and I removed the screw from it with her Sashiko bobbin case in the workshop. And sure enough, the screw fitted just perfectly. So she was able to go back and do a little bit more work on her quilt. And she's going to show you that in a future live stream, the quilt that she's been working on. But I thought I would mention that. So if you've got a bobbin case and you drop that tiny little adjusting screw and you can't find it, and you have a small supply of other vintage type bobbin cases, it might just work. And the Sashiko is not a vintage machine, but it's a Japanese based machine. And I took a Japanese older vintage bobbin case, and guess what? They did not change the screw that goes in it. So Susie can share a little bit more about her woes last night, looking for that teeny tiny little screw that's probably a little bit longer than about a 1 to 2 millimeters long. It's tiny. And we never did find it. We never found it. So anyway, be careful and be innovative if you run into a problem. Okay? Be innovative. All right, so I'm going to finish taking these out. You see my screw's got a little magnetism to it. Put that in our little magnetic tray over there. And just so you know, when you're reassembling this, like I'm going to demonstrate, when you're reassembling this, you're going to discover that you're going to tighten these screws all the way down, and yet this retainer plate right here still is going to be able to have just a little bit of movement to it, and as is the hook assembly as well. That's exactly as it should be. Remember, the Swedish were very proud of the fact that they developed something called the jam-free raceway. And in order for it to be jam-free, even once all three of these little torque bolts are tightened up, the hook assembly still has to be able to have movement up and down and left and right. And that allows it to have that thread pass through more freely so that the thread doesn't jam up in there, no matter what kind of thread you're using. You can be using, Kevlar thread. You can be using standard thread, embroidery thread. It really doesn't matter. It's still going to allow you to have some movement in there. All right, so I've got all three of the bolts out. I'm going to go ahead and take this plate off now. I'm going to try to take the plate off. There we go. Now, the first thing we're going to notice about this plate is it's got damage to it. And we're going to try to fix that today in the live stream. Over time, while this machine is operating, the thread is passing by this point on the retainer plate at a very high rate of speed. And as it's passing by, the thread actually starts to cut holes into the plastic. You can see that if I move it around different angles, that should be straight across, and yet that plastic has been eaten away. And the reason we want to address that is if we don't address that damage to it, it's going to result in that thread eventually getting caught on there, and all of a sudden you'll have problems with the thread breaking constantly. So by us repairing this, which we'll do shortly, we're going to be able to prevent future issues with that thread catching on that jagged part here and jamming and or breaking. Even though you have a jam-free raceway, this should be smooth, and it's not right now. You can see that in the shot. It's gotten quite a bit of damage to it. You can actually see the little cut points right here in the edge of the bobbin retainer plate. So we're going to address that in this live stream. I'll show you how to do that. You'll need a couple of special tools, but nothing outrageous. And then you'll be able to resolve that issue so that this doesn't become a problem for you. And this takes many, many, many years to develop. So Mindy should be able to enjoy this machine without any issues once we address this area. Here's our hook assembly right here. We'll do a little bit of maintenance on this as well. I've shown you how to do that before. And but we're going to be going deeper into the machine than that. You can see another plate right here. This is actually what the hook assembly mounts to. And we're going to be removing that as well, but we've got to do it very carefully. We've got to do it very, very carefully. If we don't, we'll throw the hook timing off on the machine. So the first thing I'm going to do before I remove this portion of it, and I'll light it up a little bit as well. It's a little bit shadowed in there. So before I remove these three little screws right here, before I remove those three little screws, I'm going to anchor the balance wheel so that it can't be turned. I'm going to anchor the balance wheel so it can't be turned. And I'm going to do that with just a little bit of painter's tape. I'll take my painter's tape right here, and I'm going to actually tape the balance wheel so that it can't move either way. That way, we're going to be confident that we don't throw the hook timing off. I could certainly reset the hook timing on this machine, but why do that if you don't have to? And many of you wouldn't know how to do it on a Swedish Beauty, so I don't want you to run into that problem. So I'm going to take a piece of this painter's tape, and I'm going to tape down the balance wheel so that it can't move. I'll actually put a couple pieces on there. Just like that. That way I don't accidentally, or you don't accidentally, while you're doing maintenance on your Swedish Beauty, you don't accidentally turn that balance wheel because the needle is in your way or whatever it might be. And then as soon as you turned it, you've thrown the machine out of time. Put another little piece over here. There we go. So now I've got that balance wheel in a fixed position where I can't turn it. which is exactly what we want. Now we're going to go back over to our raceway area. I might have to get a little light on there. It's kind of just a little dark, isn't it? There we go. I've got all kinds of LED lights in the workshop, but it seems like you never have enough light, or the light's in the wrong spot. The other thing, by anchoring that balance wheel, it's going to keep this assembly from rotating at all. But the first thing we want to note before we take off this piece is, you'll notice on the hook assembly, there's a little notch right here in the back. That notch is going to fit into this plate that comes off of the lower main shaft. You can see the little notch right up here at about the, what would that be? At about the 2 o'clock position. I'll see if I can get even closer to show it to you. But there's a little notch right up here. Wait, there we go. There's a little notch right up here where that bobbin case is going to fit into there. You want to remember where that notch is. So when you put this plate back on, you're going to put it in the proper position. Okay. So you can see right here, see if my light is getting that. I think it is. There's a little notch right here. I've actually got my screwdriver in it. We got that little notch right there where that bobbin case is going to slide into there. Okay. So just remember where that is. Right now we're looking at it. It's right about, if you imagine this being a clock, it's right about at the 2 o'clock position. Okay. So remember that. Remind me where it was. Remind me where it was. Right about at the 2 o'clock position. Okay. So now we're going to remove these little screws right here. Get my glasses back on. And what I do is I loosen all three and then I remove them one at a time. I'm going to grab one of my little magnets so we can take these out as we go. There we go. There's one. I'll drop it into my little magnetic tray over here. Now we're going for the second one. There's our second little bolt. And we're going for our final little bolt right now. And there's our third one right there. So now we have all the bolts out. And what we're going to do now is we're going to pivot a little bit away from this area to this area and this area. And we're actually going to remove this free arm from the machine. I could have done that first, but I wanted to show you this first of all, because some of you may not want to or may not be comfortable taking off the free arm, but it makes the job just a little bit easier. And it gives you also the opportunity to look at some of the other service points that are in this area as well. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my needle. Take my needle completely out. If you're working around this, you don't want to get jabbed by that needle. I'm going to grab myself a different magnetic tray. We'll create a second magnetic tray now. We'll put our needle in there along with some of the other pieces that we're working with. We're going to take off our presser foot as well. And you don't have to take the screw all the way out of the presser foot necessarily. You can, but at a certain point, you should be able to wiggle this free. And then you can just leave the screw in there if you'd like to. I usually, when I take a screw like that, I'll kind of rotate it back in. And it also gives us an opportunity to do some maintenance on this area as well. Kind of clean that up a little bit. Now we're going to remove our feed dog plate right here. We'll take our feed dog plate off next. I'll shut my light off just temporarily so I don't burn it out. And you can use a variety of different screwdrivers on here. I've also got, remember, I've got these low threshold ones as well. Depending on the width of the screw head, you might be able to use a real low profile screwdriver like this as well to take the plate off. But I'm going to use this one now to loosen these up and then just do it by hand after that. And on this one, normally by the faceplate, this faceplate is designed to come off. I'll rotate it up like this. There's a little flange underneath here. You have to loosen a screw, and then you rotate it down, and then the whole faceplate comes off for maintenance as well. If we have time, I'll show you that as well, because that's a little bit tricky to get that faceplate off. All right, let's go back to this. I think I'll use a different screwdriver here because the faceplate's kind of in the way a little bit. Go back to this one. As soon as you get your screws out, just drop them into the tray. And then if you kind of move your finger underneath here, you should be able to push this plate up. See how I'm pushing that plate up? You don't want to use something to try to get in between here because you're going to scratch your plate. Just take your finger, just kind of push the plate up, and then you should be able to get your hand on it to take the plate off of there. And you can see, even though part of this was cleaned, it gets dirty very quickly. Now we've got 3 more bolts to take out. There's one right here. There's one right over here. And then there's one back right over here as well. And then we're going to be taking the entire free arm assembly off. I'll try to back up the camera a little bit, give you more of a distant shot. All right, so we'll concentrate on these now. Use this, get a little bit better leverage on it. And this one as well. As you start to loosen these, the bottom half is going to start to drop down. You can just pull it up. You can see it's already loose. You can just hold up that bottom part a little bit to remove the bolts all the way. And it's about the length of the bolt right there. It's got a finer thread on it. It's probably about in a metric size, it's probably about a 6 or an 8. But you could take it to your local hardware store if you somehow have one that's damaged. Maybe the head is cracked on it or something like that. You can take it to your hardware store and they'll be able to help you match a bolt to this. Don't fall prey to the people online that want to sell you a Husqvarna Viking bolt for $6 when you can go to your local hardware store and match it up by the thread count and by the thread type and get it replaced for probably about 30 cents. So, just be wise and be a good steward of your resources. All right, let me get this one out back here. Push on the bottom of that again and unscrew this. There's number 2. And we just have one more to take out. Well, I don't know how you folks are doing as far as weather. We have weather that's rolling into our area here in the mountains, probably around 1 or 2 o'clock today. And there's debate on how much snow, somewhere like around 3 to 6 inches, I think is what we're expecting. It could be more, it could be less. So we'll just have to wait and see what we get. But I know the north, certain parts of the north, Indiana, Illinois, they've already gotten hit pretty good with some snow, as far as I've heard. So it seems like the storm is moving from north to south, and I think it's coming out of the west a little bit as well. And yeah, slowly but surely, we'll find out what we're going to be getting as far as the snow. It's always the last bolt that I don't want to come out. It kind of slows you down a little bit. I think I'll grab my micro screwdriver. And you can see with the position of my thumb, maybe you can't see. You can see with the position of my thumb right here, why we take that needle out. We don't want to be exposed to that needle and potentially get jabbed. All right, so we finally got the last bolt out. I'm going to back up the camera just a little bit, give you more of a distance shot. And what we're going to do now, once the camera decides to focus, what we're going to do now is we're going to slide off the top. That comes off very easily. And then we're going to take off the bottom half, and we kind of have to slide it this way and kind of wiggle it out a little bit. You got to wiggle it out to get it off, because these little parts right here, these little inside pedestals where the bolts mount into them, they tend to catch the back of the mechanics of the machine, and they kind of get in the way. But you can see here why we want to take this off. There's a lot of dirt built up in there, and we got to get that cleaned up. We got to get that all cleaned up. I'm going to rotate my thread in off the back, get that out of the way. So now you can see the inside of the free arm area. This is where all of that power from that 1 amp motor on the back of Mindy's machine drives all that power down through the pitman arm, across the bottom shaft, and then ultimately to this mechanism right here that is going to spin up to move that bobbin and to move that needle case as well. So we're going to focus now on the most delicate part. I'm actually going to get one more magnetic tray, because now we're going to be taking this part off. And again, we've got to remember where that notch is. If you got to write it down, because when you put this back on, that notch has to go in exactly the same position. Otherwise, your hook timing will be thrown off on the machine, and you're going to be breaking needles, potentially damaging your bobbin case as well. Okay? So we're going to remove that piece now that we have clear access to it. Also, when you have this open, it's always a good practice to check to make sure your feed dogs are absolutely secure. This micro screwdriver is going to be a little bit too fat to go in there, so I'm going to have to use a different screwdriver. Probably this one will work. And I'm just going to double check to make sure that they're absolutely snug. There we go. We rely on our feed dogs a lot, don't we? So we want to make sure that they're not going to be loosening up over time, which they can do. And now what we're going to do is we're going to remove this real delicate piece. I'm going to grab one more magnetic tray just so I can separate it, because there's also some hidden little pieces on here as well that we've got to get to. Some little hidden pieces. And what you're going to do with this is you're going to put your fingers on either side of it, and you're just going to gently wiggle it like this to get it to come off of its mounting point, okay? Just wiggle it gently. You can see now we've got this off, and you've got to be careful. Remember our notch again right here? This little notch is going to be around at the 2 o'clock position when we reassemble this. But on the back here, you have to be careful because there's these paper thin little spacer discs. There's generally 3 to 5 of them on the Swedish Beauties, and they mount right on this shaft. And what they do is they push out this bobbin case mounting assembly just far enough so that when the needle sweeps down, it's in the proper alignment with the hook on the assembly. So you can imagine as this is turning like this hook is turning, it's going to push this out so that it's going to be in the proper alignment to grab that thread as this comes around. It just pushes it out just far enough that it does the job nicely. But one of them is hidden on the back here. We have to kind of slide that off. It kind of sticks a little bit too. And treat them very delicately. You can see how thin that metal is. Also how dirty it is as well. Just paper thin. So we're going to be cleaning these before we reassemble this assembly. We'll be cleaning this mounting plate as well that the bobbin case goes into, and then we'll put it all back together again. But I'm going to set these over in this extra tray I've got, and there should be a couple more on here depending on the spacing of this. They changed their design quite a bit in the 1970s. We might only have one spacer, but I'm going to check it real carefully just in case. I had a little, there it is. I had a little awl just so I can see if there's any more that are on there because they kind of blend in. And on this particular model, it looks like there's only one of those spacers on there. But if you take apart the hook and the hook system on, say, a 1950s model, say a 21A or 21E, you're going to find between 3 to 5 of these little plates like this that act as a spacer. Where's my hand? There it is. 3 to 5 of these little plates on the earlier models from the 1950s. All right. We actually have to go just a little bit. Let me see. Let's see how far we want to go with this. I'm kind of watching my time as well. Okay, I don't think we can do it from the back side. I'll show you how to do it from the back side. This plastic plate snaps onto the assembly. I'm going to leave it the way it is, and we'll clean up the mounting point here and that. And then we're going to grease it from behind because there's a number of gears on the back side of here that we've got to be able to get to. So I only swabbed it just a little bit, and you can see already what we're getting off of that area. So I'm going to add a little bit of rubbing alcohol. We're going to go ahead and clean it up a little bit more. And then we'll be able to go through the process of beginning to reassemble it again. Actually, I think I'm going to take it off anyway. It's a little bit cumbersome to get around it. And what I'm going to use is over the top, I'm going to slide this all in. There's basically 3 little plastic pins, actually 2 or 3. I don't know what this one has, that hold this in place. I'm going to go ahead and just pop it off. It'll make it just a little bit easier for us. So you can see there's our little plastic plate. This one has 2 pins. Some of them have a 3rd pin over here. And we're going to go ahead and set this to the side. We'll clean that, but we'll clean underneath here first. And if I get real close, you'll be able to see some of the gears right in here that we're going to be adding grease to before we reassemble this. We've got grease points in here and here for those worm gears that drive the raceway. Let me set that to the side. And we'll see if we can get in there and just do a little bit more cleaning. I'm also going to tighten up our shot a little bit so you can see kind of what I'm doing a little bit better. Is that camera focusing? I think it is. Yep. And again, I can guarantee you that if you go to a sew and vac, if you said something like, hey, can you tear apart the raceway and take off that little wafer thin disc and all that, they're going to look at you like you're crazy, like you have 2 heads, because they're not going to go that far with it. They're just not. But again, this is our brain center for creating stitches. And if we don't clean it, we don't keep it clean, our stitch quality is going to start degrading. It's going to start getting worse and worse and worse. Just a couple swabs and look at what we've gotten off of there already. I'll throw that to the side. We'll get another one going. I should have just grabbed a handful of Q-tips. I'm going to need them. I definitely need them. There we go. We got about 2 or 3 set up now. I'm also going to grab one of my little brushes so we can clean off the feed dogs and kind of push the dirt down a little bit. And be careful as you're cleaning around this section, because the gears on the Swedish Beauties, even from the 1950s, are going to be a Teflon plastic type material. And as soft as, as brass is, it can still scratch or cause damage to plastic components. So just kind of be careful as you're working around that. And we'll get into this section as well, get that cleaned up. We'll eventually spin the machine around and we'll grease it from the back as well. Get all of this, as much of this crud off of here as we possibly can. Now, normally when we're lubricating parts, I'll tell you to look for the pivot or the pitch as you rotate the balance wheel. But in this instance, we can't rotate the balance wheel right now because we'll throw off the hook timing. So we're going to look at it and just study it, and then we'll lubricate all the parts that would have pivot. And that's already looking a lot better, isn't it? Can you see that? I'll turn on my little light so you can see it even better. It's definitely looking a lot better than it was. There we go. And we've gotten a lot of dirt off of there. I'm going to still swab it a couple more times. And you can also, if you're real careful, you can use a Dremel on this section right here. But again, with the plastic gears right behind it, the Teflon plastic gears, you just have to be careful because when you're working with a Dremel, it's spinning so fast, even wire can all of a sudden take chunks out of plastic and damage these gears. So it's better just to do it more patiently and just work on swabbing it with some rubbing alcohol, which is what we're using right now. Cleaning it up with rubbing alcohol and getting that as tidy as you possibly can. And if you've got an older model of a Husqvarna, the little plastic plate I took off that's going to basically house this and keep that grease from going all over the place, you might find on yours that it's going to have a screw here and a screw here that you might have to loosen in order to put this back on. And so just be aware that what I'm showing you today on this model 6430, your Swedish Beauty might have some slight variations as far as how you get off different pieces to do this more in-depth detailed service on it. Okay, I think we've done a really good job. I'm also going to swab these off as well. We've done a good job of cleaning that area up. You can see even after going over it several times, we've got quite a bit more dirt off of it. And what we're going to focus on now is taking some of our proprietary cow country grease. If you're new to this channel, you might not know I developed my own grease because a lot of the grease products out there, they leave deposits and additives. They thicken up over time and they start to actually gum up your machine. So I decided to create my own grease, and my leadership team members had the opportunity to pick their own colors. And then what I did is I whipped up some grease in the workshop. It's a secret recipe. and then I added their color to it so they would have their own special grease. But way back in the day, it started as a pink grease. And so I'm going to go ahead and add some pink grease to these gears now so that they've got that longevity. They're not going to start to get worn. They're not going to create extra friction. They're just going to stay running smoothly. And I might have to use a special tool to get in there a little bit better than my finger. My finger might be too big. Looking for my one tool that I like working with. There we go. This one right here. And these dental tools you can buy online. I've got a whole set of dental tools like this that I use quite often. You can buy them online in a set. They're not expensive. And they'll allow you to do some very, very detailed cleaning. I've got one like this that I use quite often. If I can get my fingers on it. Use one like this quite often to get to the real tight crevices. Just like a dentist would use on your teeth, you can use it to work in some of these areas to get off some of that stuff that maybe the rubbing alcohol left behind. It's very targeted, and it allows you to get that clean on there without damaging anything. And then whenever you scrape at something like that, you always want to swab over it with a Q-tip because it's going to break some of those pieces free, and it doesn't make sense to break them free and then leave them there. So you kind of swab over and then you get that stuff cleaned off. And look at what we just got. It looked like it was really, really clean, but we still got a little bit more dirt off of it. So now I put a little bit of this grease on the end of my dental tool, and I'm going to try to get in there and around the gears. There's the gears right behind this assembly that rotate like this and then also rotate from front to back. So I'm just kind of adding a little bit of grease to them. You don't have to put it on crazy heavy. And if you don't have any cow country grease, you could certainly use the original Singer grease. It's not as good as this. Sorry, Mr. Singer, but it's not. But you can still use it. And if you ask real nice, if you ask really, really nice, I probably would send you some grease in a little container like this. Something like this. So if you want to reach out to Susie and me and say, you know, I'll cover the postage. I'll cover the postage if you mail me some grease. Yeah, we don't have an unlimited supply, but we can look at dropping some in the mail to you, or we could even put a lesser portion of this like in a Ziploc bag, and that way you'll have enough to do several services on your machine. This container probably has enough grease in it to last you a couple years or more. So, but we can certainly get some grease out to you. That way, when you perform this service, you're using the best grease in the world for longevity, where it doesn't thicken up, it doesn't crust up, and it doesn't start to gum up your machine. It stays supple, it stays soft, and it continues to provide that protection and that lubrication to your sewing machine. All right, just a little bit more on there. Kind of take it off my finger and get back there by that other gear. We'll get that other gear from the other side as well. And if we go astray with some of it, we can use a Q-tip swab to kind of clean it up. And if it gets on something, it's not going to hurt anything. There we go. So now we've added that extra protection. And you notice when we started, there was no grease on those gears at all. And I'm guessing with a great deal of certainty that this machine has never been torn down like this before. So at the factory, when they built this machine back in the late 1960s, early 1970s, they never added grease to these gears, which makes no sense to me at all. Whether they're plastic or metal gears, when you add grease to them, it's going to lower that friction viscosity factor, and it's going to make them last much, much, much longer. But then again, if I'm building sewing machines and I want to sell more sewing machines, maybe I don't put grease on the gears so that it won't last as long, right? That may be what they were thinking. But you can see we've done a good job. If I get real close, we've done a good job of applying grease to that gear around here. I also brought it along the bottom as well, and then also to this gear back here that we're going to hit from the other side as well. And now we'll just do a little bit of cleanup around this, and then we'll start cleaning our parts before we reassemble. So I'm just going to take a Q-tip and just kind of get some of the grease that's run astray a little bit. Again, it won't hurt anything if it's on there, but we'll kind of tidy it up a little bit. A little piece up there as well, it looks like. There we go. So we know the first piece that's going to go on is this this little disc. And you don't want to use a Dremel on this little disc this little spacer disc. Again, we only have one on this 6430. On the older Husqvarna models, you're going to have 3 to 5 of these that you'll have to remove from the machine. They're all universal, so it's not like one is bigger, one is smaller, one is shaped differently. They're all identical, but we can't use a Dremel on these because it's such a thin metal. It's so ridiculously thin, we could potentially damage it. So we're going to take our rubbing alcohol, we're going to swab around this very gently, and we're going to clean it up, and then we'll remount it to the machine again. And I've said it before, when you're working with rubbing alcohol, just keep it away from the finish of the machine. It's a little caustic. It can damage clear coat. And what I usually do is I put this in the palm of my hand, and that way I've got that surface evenly supported. These things will bend very, very easily if you're not careful. And if it bends and it's on that shaft, guess what? It's going to cause wobble then. It's going to cause wobble because it's not flat and true. So if you're doing it like this, just give it that support behind there so that you don't potentially bend it or warp it out of shape. And take it nice and slow. Take it easy. Kind of rotate it as you go, and then you can get that against your finger again to give it that support. Now, we've only swabbed really one side of it. Look at what we've gotten off already. It gets very, very dirty in the raceway area, doesn't it? Turn it over, do the other side as well. There we go. That's a lot better than it was when we took it out, isn't it? We got all that extra dirt off of there so that it doesn't affect the running and the operation of that brain center. And it's going to allow us to have the best possible stitching possible. Because if this area gets all crudded up, it's going to affect your stitch quality real quick. There, I think we've done a good job of tidying that up. Swab it just a little bit more. I'm just going to real carefully rotate my camera down. Let me move this out of the way. And I see there's a couple little rust points or marks on there that I want to try to get off. So I'm going to lay it flat on here so it's fully supported on the workshop area. And then I'm just going to carefully one direction. Notice how I'm pulling it out to the side so that I don't accidentally go this way and bend it. Let's turn it around. So there were just a couple marks on there. I wanted to see if we could flatten those out. And I'm using brass because it tends to be a lot softer. I'm using a brass brush. We'll flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. So either, push it out so that you're not going to potentially catch that edge and bend this up. There we go. Just takes us a little bit further down the road as far as making sure it's absolutely clean before we reinstall it. Now we're going to swab it one more time, so that if there's any residue that we broke free, that we're going to be wiping that off as well before we reinstall it. Yeah, I wish you could feel how thin this is. It's just wafer thin. So we're talking about the adjustment in the raceway of pushing out that hook assembly with the hook on it is just thousandths of an inch. Just thousandths of an inch is what this little disc will make the difference of. You can see we broke some stuff free and we got more dirt off of it. So now we're going to very gently see if we can reinstall this on there. And then we'll clean our retaining plate and we'll put that over the top of it. So I got that back on. I just slid that back on, which I should have shown you. Oops. I just slid it back on that shaft right here. And then if you have to adjust it just very, very gently to make sure that the holes are aligned, you can use your awl and just go into the hole and make sure that it is in the right position. Now let's work on getting our cover plate cleaned up. That's all yucky looking right now. I'll use a microfiber cloth to kind of wipe it off. I'll probably use, it's kind of a Windex product, but it's not. And I'll spray this down a little bit and we'll get all this extra dirt off of here before we pack it back into position. Okay? So I just have kind of a generic cleaner here. Spray it on here, get this cleaned up as best as we can, and then we can use a Q-tip to get into some of those more difficult spots. And this is plastic as well. It's a pretty thick plastic, but I would still say, you know, we handle everything with kit gloves, don't we? Handle everything with kit gloves. And if you get some dirt like that in the corners, it's kind of packed in there. Can you see that right on top? This is where your dental tool can really serve you well in loosening that up and getting that dirt out of there. So you can then wipe it off with your cloth. And we swab both sides, obviously. We'll use a Q-tip on the other side. It'll fit in there much easier. Right inside of that little rim area. Get that all cleaned out. Look at that. Just filthy, isn't it? And I saw the same thing as I went through other parts of this 6430. A machine from the 1970s, over 50 years old. It collects a lot of dirt, especially depending on where it's stored and the operating environment for it as well. It can just really get filthy, can't it? Lots and lots of dirt on there. All right, just work around this little edge right here. There's a little bit kind of stuck in there. That might just be discolored too. That looks like that's just discolored. There we go. I think we've done a good job of cleaning that up. So we'll go ahead and position this back in and we'll snap it back into place so it's covering up those gears and keeping those protected. And as you're doing this, just make sure you don't move your little spacer on there. little spacer is right in the same path, and we don't want to knock that out of alignment. And when you put this in, make sure you push it all the way in. This little cover. I'm going to use my my dental tool to make sure that I've snapped those two little tabs all the way in. All right, I'm just going to check my alignment one more time. See how that rotates? So we have to make sure it's lined up correctly when we go to put those other components back on. Okay. I don't know if you could see that when I was doing that. It can get knocked out of alignment very easily. I'll do this from the side so you can hopefully see. Probably easier with a Q-tip. See how that wiggles? And we have to make sure, see how those, right now the holes are not lined up. We use our awl again to bring it back into alignment again. There we go. Now our next piece to go on is going to be the retainer that our bobbin case actually snaps into, or actually settles into, I should say. As I look around the edges, I can see there's a little bit of roughness that's starting on these edges as well. So we're going to take some light sandpaper and just clean up these edges a little bit. You might be able to see right there where it's showing little tufts of the coating material. We want to make sure that that's nice and smooth along here so that that bobbin case so that hook can mount to this as flat as possible so that it's operating well. So we have to just clean up those edges a little bit. Kind of change the angle of my camera a little bit. We'll do it right on this surface right here on my little brick that's tilting the machine back right now. And I would recommend probably a 600 grit sandpaper will do nicely. You don't have to go any finer than that. So I'm just going to go into my little kit right here. Got a little kit with all kinds of doodads in it. And I'll use my tweezers. Use my tweezers to pull out one of these little pieces of sandpaper. I got one piece that I was already using, so I'll just continue to use that one little piece right here. And what I'm going to do is I'll do it away from the area we just cleaned. I'll just kind of do it right here. We'll just kind of work on these edges just gently to get some of those rough spots cleaned up a little bit. Nothing real harsh, just kind of a general cleanup on there. And now we're going to clean this as well. We'll use the same microfiber cloth with that kind of a Windex style cleaner. Apply a little bit to that. And we'll just kind of swab this off a little bit. Get that nice and clean, nice and tidy. Does everyone remember where does our little notch go? You can see our little notch right here where that hook assembly is going to mount into. Where does this go as far as a clock? Type it in the live chat if you would. Remind me where it goes. Does it go at the 12 o'clock position? Does it go at the 11 o'clock position? Does it go at the 10 o'clock position, the 9 o'clock position? Where do we put this? Where do we line up this little notch right here where our hook assembly, once we've cleaned it, our hook assembly is going to mount to this in the process of reassembling it. And we've got to make sure that this little notch on the back of here goes into the right spot. So remind me where it goes. Where, as far as a clock, are we going to line that up with? Okay, and Teresa's saying 2 o'clock position. Susie's saying 2 o'clock position. And I trust my leaders implicitly. So I'm going to position it so that it's at the 2 o'clock position. So it should go on like this with our little notch. Let me hold it like this, get my hand out of the way. It should go on just like this with our little notch right about at the 2 o'clock position. I've got to slide it back in. And when you're putting this piece back on, you've got to push it on flush and straight. Otherwise, that little spacer is going to move on a position. Okay? It's going to move on a position. So when you put it on, kind of come from the side and press it on evenly so that it's going to line up. It's going to line up with those holes nicely. Get it right to about there. There we go. I've got it just on the edge. I'm looking at the alignment of the 3 holes, and then I'm going to press it straight on with my thumbs, okay? And now I've got it all the way in position. Now, if I look at that, and if I look in these 3 little holes, and it looks like that little spacer plate that we put on first isn't just lined up right, then what we can do is we can gently wiggle this out just slightly, and then we can take our awl and we can go into each of those holes and just make sure that plate is lined up straight away and properly. And then once we're satisfied that the spacer plate is in proper alignment, we can then push this back on. Yep, and lock it into place. And then we're in a position where we can add our 3 bolts again. Add our 3 bolts to that. I'm going to slide this in a little bit closer so it stops wiggling. Now we're in a position where we can add our 3 little screws again. I'll turn our light on again. We can add our little three screws again. And then we're confident that everything is lined up properly. But before we do that, even though if you read in the original paperwork from Husqvarna, when they would send machines like this out, they would say that you do not need to lubricate this raceway. It's lube free. I think that's a bunch of malarkey. You always want to apply a light coat of crystal white sewing machine oil inside of the raceway area behind where the hook is going to be mounted. So I'm applying some crystal white. It's got a little bit of kerosene in there. And then we're going to gently swab this area so that it's got just a little bit of lubricant on it. Just a little bit of lubricant. Let me check that alignment one more time. Okay, now we're in a position where we can start going back towards putting our screws back in. We can go ahead and put our screws back in. Reach over and grab them. We're going to have a total of 3 screws that we're going to be putting in. I'm also going to gently swab over these as well. It doesn't make sense to put something back into a clean space if we don't at least clean it off with a little bit of that multi-purpose cleaner. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that to the screws I've got right here in the microfiber cloth. Kind of swab those off a little bit with a microfiber, and then we can put these screws back in, confident that they're not going to reintroduce dirt to that clean raceway. And I'm going to set them down on top of the microfiber cloth off camera so I don't drop them. Otherwise, I'll be yelling for Susie to come out and help me find them. And I'm going to magnetize my screwdriver, this one right here, running it over the little magnetic tray. Make sure that I've got just a little bit of magnetism to that. That should hopefully hold it in place. Yeah, not quite enough. So I'll just position them in manually. And kind of like putting a tire on. We'll go ahead and tighten them up evenly. Give it a couple of turns. We got our first one in place. We get our second one in. And our third one in. And then we're going to snug them up nice and tight. And a little trick, if you are working with something like this and you're trying to get that screw to position itself in the hole properly, and the magnetism on your screwdriver keeps messing with you, it keeps moving the screw around, not to be gross, but put a little bit of spit or lick the end of your screwdriver, and it will neutralize that magnetic pull of the screwdriver, so you can then control those screws without them being pulled around by the magnetism. I showed that to Susie last night while we were putting that bobbin case back together for her Sashiko machine. So I'm evenly snugging these down. Then I'm going to grab the back of the free arm like this, and I'm just going to apply a little bit more pressure to make sure they're nice and tight. Get that pressure evenly all the way around, just like when you're putting lug nuts onto a tire. And if you've never changed a tire before, you should try it so you know how to do it. Especially if you're up in the mountains like we are, we have to know how to change tires. Otherwise, we could be stranded for hours. Okay, so we've got that back into position. We've already lubricated it. And now we're going to focus on cleaning up our hook so that we can position that back where it needs to go in the raceway. So we're going to focus on cleaning and tidying up this now. And I'll use a combination of rubbing alcohol to get the dirt off, and then I'll lubricate this as well with just a little bit of crystal white sewing machine oil and kerosene. And again, as you're cleaning this, make sure if you're cleaning this area right here that you're going away from the hook like this so that you don't either poke yourself or you don't, dull that point on the hook assembly at all. That's got to be nice and sharp. So always swab away from it like this, kind of like we did with that little flat disc, so we didn't damage it. So let me set this up here. I'll adjust our camera back again, and we'll see if we can tidy up the hook just a little bit. I'm going to see how long we've been running. We've been running about an hour and 20 minutes, so I think I'll do another service instruction, other parts of the machine in another live stream. I want to try to keep this one limited, partly because of the weather that we have coming in. We might lose internet. You never know. If that snow gets too heavy on the lines in that, it can cause things to go bad. So we can avoid that happening. The other thing I'll do real quick before I forget is I'll just gently take some of this 600 grit sandpaper and I'll just gently go over our hook point right here. Make sure that there's no rough spots on it. And I'm touching it very, very gently. Very, very gently. There we go. So now we're going to swab it with some rubbing alcohol, and then we'll move to putting a light coat of oil on it. Just a light coat of oil after that. So we'll start on the inside, kind of work our way around a little bit. Swab it out. And I've already done this once. I did this before the live stream as I was preparing the machine. And we'll see how dirty it got just in the course of doing a 2.5, 3-hour live stream sewing on this machine. We'll see how much dirt was reintroduced to the hook assembly. It just shows you why you should be doing maintenance like this on your Swedish beauties. I would say probably in this area here, once to twice a year, depending on how much sewing you're doing on that machine and also where you have that machine stored. If you have your sewing area near the kitchen, twice a year. If you're in a little spot like Susie is, that's a nice little sewing suite well away from the kitchen, once a year probably will be sufficient. But you can certainly clean it more. It doesn't hurt. Here we swab the inside. Look at what we just got off. And again, this was serviced before the live stream. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Now we'll swab the outer edges. Again, watch out for that hook. Watch out for that hook. And the back side as well. That's going to be up against our little mounting plate that we just put back on. I'm going to set this down. I'll actually bring my little towel over so I don't get any dirt on it. And now I'm going to take another Q-tip and I'm going to put a little bit of crystal white sewing machine oil with just a touch of kerosene. And I'm going to swab this on the front and on the back. We'll do the inside first. Make sure you do this little point where the bobbin and the bobbin case, the bobbin attaches to that as well. You got to swab that also. The back side. Again, when you're by the hook, go away from it like this so that you don't get any of that cotton from the Q-tip stuck on the hook. That can happen very, very easily. Swab that as well. Get that nice and tidied up, just a light coat of oil on it. And then we're going to work at trying to get that back into position again. Now, it's just basically gravity that kind of holds it in there when we're getting it into that plate area. There we go. So we don't want to move the machine around, otherwise this will topple out. So we've got that back into place now. And all I did, since I had the camera alignment wrong, all I did was basically grab it right here where the bobbin case attaches. And I lined it up with our little notch that for us was at the 2 o'clock position. And then just make sure it's nice and flush against there. See how those edges of the hook assembly go against that area that we use that sandpaper to take those rough edges off. Remember the area on here had those rough edges around there? That's why we did that, so that this will lay against that nice and flat. And when we snug it up a little bit, it's going to lay flat and it's going to turn true and even. You can see already it's designed to wiggle a little bit. See that? That's that jam-free raceway feature that the Swedish people were so proud of developing. So proud of developing it. So now we have a more intensive maintenance resolution for this. Remember, this was all damaged from the thread eating it up over time. See if I can hold my hand real still and you can see this. So this should be even across, and you can see that it's not. It's got that little bevel right here because that casing has been eaten away by the thread racing over it for so long. So we're going to use a Dremel tool with a special grinder and see if we can level that out. And we'll do it away from the machine so we don't introduce all that stuff to the machine. I'll see if I can move my camera a little bit. I've got a very busy space right now. If you look down, I've got a very busy space right now. I've got to clean this up a little bit, and we'll do it to the right of the machine over here. Let's see if I can make some space. I think I hear a plow truck out there laying down more salt. Could also do it down here because then it's not going to be up by the machine, and I could even drape this. That's probably what I'll do. I'm going to drape this just in front of there. You can kind of see what I've done. I've kind of protected that area that we just cleaned, and then we can do our grinding down here. And I've got a vacuum nearby. We're going to clean it up right away so that we don't get it on the machine. All right, let me see if I can get my Dremel plugged in, and then we'll grind this down, and then we'll smooth it out with the same sandpaper that we used before. Hopefully this is long enough. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, so let me angle this down. And what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully, I'm using this type of grinding disc. You can see that in the shot. Using this type of grinding disc, and we're going to very gently work it back and forth and basically cut a new edge to that, smoothing it out like this. Matter of fact, if I hold it like this, it'll probably give you a pretty good view of what I'm doing. And grip your Dremel tool closer to the end. I know that there's vent points here to keep it cool. Don't cover those, but get it closer to the end. You're going to have more control over it, okay? See how I straighten that out? Now we have to get the little rough spots off of there. And I'm kind of using the edge of the grinding disc. Let me just get my, I've got my basic glasses on right now. I'm going to get my magnifiers on now so I can see more closely to where I'm working. You see how much smoother that is already? We've got more work to do on it, but we've smoothed it out significantly. And it's a real light touch, a real light touch. Okay, we're going to stop there with the Dremel now. We're going to stop there with the Dremel. We've gotten most of the damaged portions off. Now we're going to use a hand sander. Actually, I could add this little grinding disc, but I think that's going to be a little bit too rough. I'm actually going to hand clean it up now using this little piece of sandpaper and get the rest of those little loose pieces off and get those areas smoothed out the rest of the way. But if you remember where we started with, I mean, it was just ground up from that thread. We've been able to smooth that surface out dramatically, so that thread is going to be able to move over this area in the sewing process without catching on that. It's going to create a much nicer looking stitch. It's going to prevent it from jamming and prevent it from breaking as well. We have to grind it just a little bit more on that edge. We got a couple of pock marks on there. You can see how smooth this is right here. And we've been able to bring that evenness back where it's not totally offset like it was. Now we have to just hit that area just a little bit more on the edge, and then we'll be real close to getting it the way as it should be. So we'll just do a little bit more real gently in that corner. There we go. I don't know if you can see that on the camera now, but that area was raised up and it still would have created an issue with that thread catching. We just kind of took that grinder and gently, I mean, a feather touch to try to get that to lay down and won't become an obstacle to our thread passing through this area. And yes, I do this on every Swedish beauty that comes into the workshop because inevitably it's going to have that need. It's going to have that need of getting that retainer plate cleaned up from the thread racing over it. All of us have seen rivers and the racing river water that can, I mean, it can literally like chew through rocks and everything else. It's got that fortitude. It's the same thing with thread. I mean, racing over it and over and over again. After each project, it's going to be potentially cutting into that surface. And if the surface isn't smooth, then it creates even more damage because it gets caught on there more so and creates even deeper cuts into that space. Well, if you can remember again where we started, And where we are now, it's a dramatic improvement in smoothing this area out so that it can serve the machine much better in not catching the thread as it's racing through here in the sewing process. You'll notice I changed directions because as we grind it, it kind of folds it over almost, and we have to kind of break it loose and then get down beyond that and smooth that area out. Got one little piece right here. There we go. So that's the way it should look. Let's see if I can hold it like that. Remember how we started? That's the way it should look. And we used a combination of the Dremel and then also a little bit of hand sanding to try to get it just as right as rain. And you run your finger over it just like anything. See if you feel any rough spots. Okay, I think we've done a good job. Especially during a live stream. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take our little blue cloth. Actually, no, I'm not. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to get my vacuum cleaner. So you're going to hear a loud sound, and we're going to clean all this up so that we don't somehow accidentally reintroduce it to the machine, right? So I guess that's the equivalent of surgery, isn't it? We just did surgery. We just did surgery on a Swedish beauty. And now we're going to be able to clean this plate up just a little bit more now that we've addressed the issue of the unevenness back here so that we can be confident that it's going to operate properly in the machine. Clean it more, a little bit more with our multi-purpose cleaner. Get that tidied up. There we go. Just like new. So now we can confidently put this back into the machine, knowing that it's going to operate properly. And yeah, maybe we'll even do a stitch off when we're done assembling this. And again, this is just kind of free folding there. There's nothing holding it in place. So when we put this over, we have to kind of make sure that it goes on evenly and then get those screws into place to hold it. But it's not going to hold it rigidly. It's going to allow it to have a little bit of a jiggle wiggle so that that raceway is jam free as the Swedish people designed it. But first of all, we have to clean our little bolts right here, little screws. These are what are going to retain it in place. And they're a torque type bolt that's going to allow that raceway cover that we just repaired to allow this to have a little bit of movement, but it'll still hold the hook securely. So we'll clean these next. Get these nice and clean. Ah, the doctor is here. Yep, we're getting them all set up, getting them all cleaned. All right, get these tidied up. Keep them on our cloth. And then we'll slowly reassemble this, one of these final pieces here that holds it all together. Kind of slide that over like that. Actually, I see a little bit of dirt inside of here. I see a little bit of dirt inside these holes, so I'm going to clean those one more time with some rubbing alcohol to get the rest of the dirt off of there, because it looks like we have a little bit of dirt caught in there right now. Just kind of put it like this. Yes, we did. Look at that. We cleaned the outside, but we needed to take one additional step to clean the inside of the screw holes, because those screws were introducing a lot of dirt into that area. I think we'll swab it just one more time. There we go. Yeah. See, we could have put it back together and left all of that in place, and that wouldn't be good. So set that right there. And now we'll go back to the process of trying to reassemble this. I'm going to start with one screw in the upper left-hand corner. Kind of give us a starting point. Change the camera angle, Scott. Change the camera angle, buddy. So I have one little torque type screw that I put in the upper left-hand corner. Now I need to see if I can cinch it down a little bit. And again, you're not going to be able to, you're going to get to a certain point, you won't be able to turn it any further. It's going to prevent you from turning it too far. Get a couple turns so that it's kind of holding that in place, and we'll do the one at the opposite corner. Oops, I didn't get it quite all the way in there. Let's try that again. Oops, don't knock the camera over, Scotty. Okay, I think I got it that time. We'll put the one in the opposite corner down here. See how loose it is still right now? It's very, very loose. We'll add that third one to the bottom left-hand corner. And now we'll just kind of go around again like a tire. We'll tighten them evenly as we go. And now we can confidently take our blue tape off of the balance wheel. We could have taken it off earlier once we put that little rear plate on, and we got the hook assembly point set at the 2 o'clock position. But now we'll take our blue tape off, and then we can rotate the balance wheel to make sure everything moves freely. There we go. And now we'll just identify some of these areas right here that we can lubricate before we put the free arm cover back on. Now we're able to rotate the balance wheel without fear of throwing the machine out of timing. So I can see a number of spots that we can lubricate as we rotate it. Right up in here, and I'm going to use a needle to do that so I can be very targeted in where the lubrication goes. And back in there. And on some of the earlier machines, you'll have a pad. It's a wicking lubrication pad that is right in this area right here. You can dampen that up pretty good with your Crystal White sewing machine oil kerosene mix. And that way, even long after you service it, it'll continue lubricating that area. There's other pads throughout the Swedish Beauties as well that are designed to allow that wicking of the oil to keep the machine running smoothly. And you can identify those, and I'll help you identify them in future live streams where we look at some other areas of the machine that can be serviced as well. There we go. Just wiping a little bit of the excess oil off. Okay, so now we're going to work on cleaning up the free arm, the top and the bottom, and we will go ahead and put that on next. So I've got the bottom half that you can see right now. Good gravy. It's got a little piece of a needle. It's got all kinds of dirt inside of there as well. So we will work at tidying this up. You might hear me use the air compressor off camera. I'm going to spray this out, and then we'll clean it up with some of that multi-purpose spray to get this area cleaned as well. Okay, we'll wipe it out with the microfiber cloth. And microfiber cloths, they absorb a lot of the dirt. You can kind of see that on camera. Get to a certain point on a project, I'll throw them away. I don't try to wash them. I don't try to reuse them. I use them on a project, and then I get a brand new one out for the next project. Now, on your model, you might have one of these. This is a little pressure flange right here. This little pressure flange. Yours might have a screw in it. This one is riveted. They went to a riveting process because it was probably a little bit cheaper to do it than using a screw where they would have to thread it and cut the threads and everything else. But this is going to create that reverse pressure. So when you close the door, it locks in place. And if this ever fails, it can be drilled out and replaced with a self-tapping screw, just a short one that would come through the bottom come through the bottom of here. So it's not like game over because they decided to put it on with a rivet. You could simply replace the rivet with a short self-tapping type screw, and it'll hold it in place very, very nicely. All right, so we got the bottom half cleaned up nicely. I'm going to set that right there. Now we need to do the top half. I'm also going to slide my rag underneath here and just make sure we haven't left any dirt behind. I can slide this into place. And again, you have to kind of wiggle jiggle it a little bit because of these parts right here that kind of get in the way as you're trying to slide it past the back side. The other thing we'll do is we'll clean this little rubber boot right over here. There's a little rubber boot that this kind of slides into, and this gets real dirty as well. We'll go over that with a Q-tip swab and some rubbing alcohol and just get that all tidied up also. Before we put that back into position. Again, our goal is to try to eliminate the introduction of any dirt back to the machine. Try to keep it as clean as possible because the cleaner it is and the more it's properly lubricated and greased, etc., the better the machine is going to run. The one thing I need to do, I need to stop myself real quick and take this back off, is I need to tilt the machine around, and there's a little bit more grease that we can put on the back of that worm gear on the back of the machine. Let me swivel this around like this. And I'm going to aim the camera right at it. Here's the back of that worm gear that we saw from the other side. You see it right there. We need to put a little bit of grease on that also. A little bit of our special grease. We'll put that on there, and then we'll tidy up this area back here just a little bit as well. I hear big trucks going up and down our road. Maybe the snow has already started. Here goes another one. They've been salting the road since early this morning. Our roads that lead up to where the workshop is, if you ever come and visit us, are ridiculously steep. And so they're trying to give us every opportunity, or God forbid, if someone needs an ambulance, that an ambulance can make it all the way up here. Because the roads, as Susie could tell you in the chat, the roads are very, 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 very steep. So I just kind of clean this up a little bit. We're going to be adding grease not only to our gear right here itself that you can see, but we're also going to be packing this well as well, because this is that mounting point that we put that little disc on, the real fragile disc. This is the other side of it. So this is going to be spinning, and we want it to be able to spin as freely as possible. So we're going to be packing that with some of the special grease as well. And then we'll put that free arm assembly back on again. And you can see the reason we do it right here. Yeah, dirt is not a good thing for a sewing machine. Not good at all. And that's where these sewing vacs, they have a lot of overhead. They have a lot of overhead. Sometimes they have multiple employees. They're paying for lease space oftentimes, and they can't do it at this level, but the machine and the sewist sacrifices because of it. That machine is never, ever going to perform as well unless we take it through the steps that I've shown you in this live stream today, because what it does is it then frees up. It's like lubricating muscles before a race, stretching muscles. We're stretching all those muscles and lubricating all those things that can hold this machine back so it can achieve a new level of greatness. That's really what our goal is we want this machine that's going to be heading to Arizona to join Mindy. We want it to just like taking a deep breath. You know, if you're sitting right now, you take a real deep breath, you just right away feel better because your body is oxygenated and you just feel renewed. We're renewing this machine back to greatness right now through these steps. And it really is essential to be able to get the best performance from the machine. So I'm going to do that gear. First of all, we'll add a little bit of the pink grease. Here I can get my big old fat fingers in there. There we go. We've already done it from the other side. We can also rotate it a little bit. Yeah, just get all sides of that because now we don't have to be concerned about throwing the hook timing off. There we go. A little bit more. And what we've done today is probably about 25 to 30 steps conservatively. When I go through a Swedish Beauty, I do about 140 steps, probably closer to 150. So I've only shown you a little sampling of what you can do to maximize and to optimize your Swedish Beauty. Hopefully I can have an opportunity to teach you other segments, other parts of the machine, so you can go, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was there. I didn't even know that was an essential part of how the machine performs and how long the machine is going to serve me without issues, how long it's going to last. The longevity factor, like I said in the title of this live stream, longevity. Kind of packing that in there a little bit. I'm kind of pushing a little bit. Now we'll wipe off the excess. Get it off my fingers first. We'll use a Q-tip just to kind of tidy it up a little bit. Again, this won't hurt anything. You can leave it on there. It's not going to hurt anything. I like tidy, don't you? Kind of tidy that up. Get this tidied up just a little bit over here. There we go. Now we can put our free arm back on. At least the bottom part. Just kind of tilt it like this a little bit and kind of wiggle it past that gear assembly, and then we can get it back over here. And we've already cleaned this little pad right here. So we're going to slide this all the way back. And then when we assemble it, we'll kind of slide it there and we'll push it up like this. So it's nice and snug against here. It's probably going to fall because there's nothing holding it right now. We don't have those bolts back in yet. Now we also have to tidy up our top half. The top half is not going to get nearly as dirty as the bottom because all that crud falls to the bottom, doesn't it? Well, we're going to clean this up as well. We use our microfiber and that multi-purpose cleaner. Kind of spray this on a little bit, kind of wipe it off. Get this tidied up also. And we got little openings right here. You see that? We'll kind of swab in there with a Q-tip and make sure we don't leave any of that dirt behind. Well, you can imagine we went through, like I said, about 25 to 30 steps. I've got about 140, probably 150 steps that I take a Swedish Beauty through. And that gives you an understanding of why does Scott say it takes him 12 to 14 hours to service a Swedish Beauty? Well, it took us almost, how long have we been running? It took us almost 2 hours to do about 25 steps. And we've got probably another 115 steps left. So it's a very time-consuming process, but in my opinion, it's worth every bit of it from what my customers tell me on how their machines do, how their machines perform. So this other one we're just putting on top like this. We kind of pinch it together, and then we're going to be putting our 3 bolts back in. And like the other bolts, we'll tighten them evenly. But first of all, we'll just kind of clean our bolts off a little bit. Put a little bit of that multi-purpose cleaner on there and kind of swab them off, and then we'll reinsert them again. Yeah, I don't know what happened to all my music on my phone. What I do is I download YouTube royalty-free music. And then when we're doing live streams or sometimes premieres, I can have some music playing periodically, especially for the fun sew-offs at the end and that, the Long Ranger type music and that. But it just disappeared on my phone. I don't know what happened. It's weird. It's totally weird. I'm going to put my first one in. See if we can get that started. We'll give it a couple of turns so it's got something to bite onto. Get our next one in across from it. And our one at the front, we'll get that started as well. And see how this one kind of just dropped through? That means I'm not lined up correctly on it. That little well piece, for some reason, I missed it. So I can open up my front door on this one and say, oh, okay, yeah, I did miss it. I'll use my little magnet and I'll pull it back out. And I'll give it another shot. See if I can get it in there properly this time. Nope, I missed it again. Ha ha! Like I said, it's usually the last one that's going to give you a little bit of trouble. Yeah, gumdrops. Seeing if I can see it from the front. Uh-huh. I think I got it. You just need an extra person to hold the light here. Here, let's try this. There we go. I think I got it that time. Just gently raise this up. So if you're contemplating doing the type of work that I do, you notice that you have to be incredibly patient. Susie says that about me sometimes when she pops out to the workshop and I'm doing something that's incredibly intense. And she'll say, you're so calm. You're so patient. Well, you don't have any other choice. You got to be calm and patient. Otherwise, you make mistakes or it takes longer. And yeah, so if you're not a patient person, you can make a New Year's resolution to become more patient, right? All right. Snug these up a little bit more. We're not going to snug them all the way, and I'll tell you why. We're going to keep them just a little bit loose because we still have to put our feed dog plate on. And our feed dog plate mounts separately, and you've got to get it aligned just right with those 2 screws. So I'm going to move the camera over a little bit. I'm going to grab our feed dog plate or our needle plate, whichever you'd like to call it.
We're going to clean this up as well. And I'm also going to be looking at that opening and just seeing if there's any cleanup I need to do as far as needle strikes. Remember, I've shown that to you before where there's maybe some delicate needle strikes on there, and it kind of barbs up the metal a little bit. So we'll use that same piece of sandpaper. We'll just make it smaller, and we might clean that up a little bit as well. Because otherwise your thread is going to catch on there from the bobbin case. All right, it's kind of just wiping over this a little bit. Ah, the doctor's wife. The doctor's wife has come back. See what we're doing here. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to take that same little sandpaper. I'm just going to go through here just a little bit. It's not bad. We'll just tidy that up just a little bit. Kind of fold this in half. And then what we're going to do is we're going to swipe it a couple of times with this 600 grit sandpaper to remove any rough spots off of there that might have happened from previous needle strikes. It's possible when Donna had this machine, Heather's mom, maybe Heather's mom, Donna, was a material puller or pusher. And when you already know when you pull that material or you push that material, instead of adjusting your pressure foot pressure, you're going to cause that needle potentially to flex. And when it flexes outside of its normal field of carry, it's going to hit this throat plate as it passes through, isn't it? You have to be patient when you're sewing as well so that you don't cause damage unnecessarily to your machine. So I just took a number of swipes on that, removed any of those rough spots, and now we're able to put this back into position again. Get that back into place. We'll clean those two little screws that hold it. And once we've cleaned those two little screws, we'll put those back in. We'll put our pressure foot attachment back on. We'll put our needle in, and then we're all done. Yeah. Just kind of putting my finger there so that the screwdriver doesn't slide out of the groove, which I know it makes it harder for you to see. There we go. We'll get the other screw in as well. So I'm going to snug up this plate nice and tight. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the free arm the rest of the way. Okay, so now we'll tighten up the free arm. Nice and snug. get a little bit wider tip screwdriver. That one is a little bit too narrow. Let's see this one. I think I can still reach this one in there. If you work with a tip that's a little bit too narrow, it can have a tendency to slip off of there. So I'm going to use this other screwdriver now to tighten up these the rest of the way on this side. Nice and snug. Same thing on this one over here. And one more time in the front. Well, the rest of this is pretty basic and rudimentary. I would say it's very basic and rudimentary where we're cleaning the presser foot. Most of you, I'm sure, have done that. We're just going to clean up this presser foot top and bottom, make sure that there's no grease or dirt on there, clean the inside of the mounting point where it goes onto the presser foot bar as well. And then we're going to be putting our needle back in. So I'll do that right now as you're wrapping things up, visiting with those folks that are in the live chat. Hopefully you made some new friends today and you've learned some new things about a different level of servicing your Swedish Beauty. And again, this live stream I did applies to all Swedish Beauties from the 1940s. I mean, even earlier, from the 1940s forward. All machines are going to have that are made in Sweden or have those roots are going to have similar components, and you're going to be able to service them and really get your machine operating at a totally different level than you've ever experienced before. You might have had that machine for decades, and after you service it the cow country way, you're going to be amazed at the performance of that machine. I got to move my brick out of the way here. You're going to be amazed at the performance of that machine and how well it serves you without any issues. So the next time what I'll cover, it'll be on a different Swedish Beauty because this one is going to be heading towards Arizona to Mindy, Super Bee. But what I'll do on the next one is I'll show you on a similar Colormatic how you can take the faceplate off and service that area of the machine. And then I'll also show you on this side of the machine, a lot of these Colormatics, you've got to remove the balance wheel in order to get the side of the machine taken off. I'll show you how to remove that balance wheel without damaging it or without cracking it so that you can service this region where the belts are and where the automatic clutch disengagement, all those mechanisms and blah, blah, blahs are housed in here, but you've got to get this off to be able to service this area. I'll show you how to do that as well. So remind me to do that in one of the next live streams. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and finish putting on these last little pieces. And yeah, God bless you guys. Stay safe in these storms that we've got. And thank you so much to the leadership team for taking care of everybody. And yeah, it's always fun to get together, isn't it? We learn something new and hopefully we make some new friendships as well.
if you have dementia or you might have it, you shouldn't drink warm water.
Don't drink warm water if you have dementia. All right. We got some interesting commercials on our channel. I'll tell you that right now. I better thread right-handed. Come on. I'll thread it another day. Ha ha! All right.